He was tired, exhausted. The man known as William Carmichael very calmly sorted the items out in his store. The man had prospered for the last 2 years, selling and dealing with dry goods. However, while business was slow, his conscience was not. His own soul was eating him up from the inside. How many of his own sons and daughters had he been forced to kill? He told himself, it was them or me. I didn't have a choice, you know. That freaking Cherokee bastard had cursed him, and what else was there to say about it? He was destined, if he wasn't careful, to have one of his kids come up and kill him. He wasn't going to have that happen, damn it. He'd been through too much, fought in that war, come out on top. True, he'd been forced to do some awful things, especially since he'd been in the scout regiment. That meant, you know, he'd be sent ahead to take care of affairs, and sometimes that meant dealing with a couple of Injuns. Big deal. I mean, who cared, right? But obviously that old chieftain, whose warrior son he had slain horribly, as well as his daughter, had cared, and he had leveled a curse upon him. You, since you've killed my children, you now will have to worry about your own fate at the hands of yours. I hope you enjoy this. Those have been his exact words before he shot that bastard right in the head. Yeah, well. Not even 3 years ago, one of his children had grown up. He was a strapping young man, about 19 years old. You'd heard of Carmichael's past experiences, as well as the fact that most likely he was his daddy. And you have to understand something about Carmichael. He wasn't good to women. He was horrible. So I think you can understand where I'm going with this. It was like I've come here to avenge how you treated my mama. And needless to say, well, that didn't turn out too well for the boy. William had killed him deader than a doornail. And that had cemented his belief in the curse. Yeah, he couldn't take chances anymore. And with this, he very calmly prepared to close shop. It is at that moment that he felt a presence, a very powerful presence. Something that he could not deny. Such to say, due to that feeling he felt upon his person, he scowled angrily, and very calmly snatched up a rifle. The way he saw it, whoever the hell it was wouldn't even get past that front door. Yet little did he know that what he was sensing was a wee bit more than anything he could truly comprehend. He felt a presence once more, and he heard footsteps, and then he saw him. He was standing behind him. How the hell, there was only one way in and out of this place. How the hell did he get past his line of sight? That made no sense. He was about to shoot that gun when the man spoke. You can go ahead and try it if you want. It's not going to kill me. Believe me. There have been more individuals badder than you that have tried. Adam? He said, quite literally taking his hand off the trigger. The small man nodded grimly. It's been a while, William. Sarge, what the hell are you doing here? I'm here to take care of business. What do you mean by that? Unfortunately, you are the business I'm here to take care of. They called to me. Who? You're speaking gibberish. Come on, you're not making any fucking sense. Put the rifle down. You had your chance to take the shot. I'm not going to give you the second chance to do it. Put the rifle down. William looked up to see that Adam had a massive pistol in his hand and was aimed right to his guts, his midsection. I will shoot you there. I know for a fact. Kind of sucks. Believe me, I've had it happen to me more than once. It doesn't kill me, but it hurts like a bitch, and I promise you, you're not going to have the same guarantee that I do to survive it. Put the fucking rifle down. The man dropped it to the floor. Smart man. I heard you were dead. Well, you definitely did not hear any exaggerations of my, definite spoken of demise, I promise you that, he said. Your son, it was Daniel. 3 years ago, he was only 19. He came to pay you a visit got the drop on you. He would have shot you, but he wasn't a killer, not like either of us. You see, the thing is, boy, he said, saying to the younger man, your son was actually a decent kid. You talked him down. He said he was sorry. He was going to go back home and tell his mama that he had killed you anyway. That way she wouldn't send anyone else after you. You apologized to him. You did everything right until you shot him in the damn back. Didn't have a choice, Sarge. It was him or me. You know exactly what happened to me. Yeah, I was there. That's the reason I had you stripped of everything and made you walk out of that field naked. And then me and my men, we left you there. I have no qualms about that. I should have killed you, but, well, I wasn't exactly as enlightened on things as I am now, he said, taking off those mirrored shades which he always wore, revealing those hollow black eyes. What the? I get that response often, I have to admit. Can you even see? Matter of fact, I can. I see everything from just what everyday people see, to other weird shit. Can't really describe it. Yeah, I see you just fine. Even though I ain't got no eyes in my head, well, what can I tell you? I've seen weirder things, and believe me, coming from a guy with no eyes in his head, that's saying something. My hypocrisy only goes so far, he said grimly. Now, back to what I was trying to tell you. You killed a man. Those fucking engines, who cares? I repeat, you killed a man and a woman. They were the son and the daughter of an old chieftain, a man who I respected. Grey Horse was nothing but respectful to everybody. He simply desired him and his left alone, but you couldn't really go through that. You couldn't really accept that. I gave you personally, you, completely distinct orders to let them people alone. But you didn't. Injuns killed my parents, Sarge. I really don't care, to be honest with you. I'm sorry for your loss, believe me. It might be interesting to enlighten you. My own father was laid low by indigenous people. Cultures are different. Times are different now than they were then. I found it in my heart to forgive, even though sometimes I can hold a grudge, even now, beyond the fucking grave. The fact is, Will, you killed a bunch of innocent people, and that's why I had your butt stripped and abandoned. I ain't never forgiven you for that, and I don't care if you did or not. Besides, that's not why I'm here. We both did terrible things. Trust me, I get it. But I never, ever did what you did. You want to know why I quit the Confederacy? Why don't you enlighten me? Will said mockingly, taunting the man. Adam sighed lightly and shot the man in the leg without even a blink. The man screamed and fell on his ass, grabbing his leg. His blood spurted from the wound. I don't take kindly to being mocked, asshole. Number one. Number two. Like I said, I was forced to do things I didn't enjoy during that period of time. Or, actually, I chose to. My entire family, you think that with my last name Cervantes that we're Mexican, obviously, as you can see. I'm as gringo as green gold gets. Came here with the conquistadors. Matter of fact, my great-great-grandfather, maybe even more greater than that, was a conquistador. He was a troubled man. And of course, like the others, he did terrible things. Horrible things to the indigenous folk that lived in the area. Of course, as you know as well as I do, the Spaniards, they wiped out millions of people. It wasn't just the Black Plague, which they kind of, at times, brought with them. That wasn't really what killed them. There wasn't too much of that going on. It was more, how can I say this, smallpox, if I remember correctly. And of course, what the diseases didn't do, our guns and swords did the rest. The man shook his head in disgust. However, old man Cervantes, he got lost during a raid one of them days, deep in them jungles. He was afraid he was going to be eaten alive by some big cat or other predator, or hell, better yet, or worse yet, I should say, hunted down by some of the natives and justifiably murdered himself. He was found by natives, all right. They didn't kill him. For some reason, these people still thought of him as a god. Of course, the way they dressed and the color of his skin makes sense, unfortunately. However, he was filled with guilt. They helped him get back home. Well, not home, but back to his settlement. They found his own people again, but he made a promise that day, because they saved his life, that where he could, of course he still had to do what he had to do, but where he could, he would help the indigenous people in this land, this country. Whether it be Mexico, or of course here, in Texas. It ain't mattering too much. But he's always kept his word throughout the centuries, throughout the generations. It's been something that's been hammered into each one of us. Because if it was not for them, the engines, whatever you want to call them, if it wasn't for them, my line would not be here. So naturally, when I saw what you was doing, I couldn't let that slide. And then, well, rumor gets around quick. Wasn't sure if you'd survived or not. I was hoping you hadn't. See, I felt that boy's spirit calling to me, yeah. How the hell did you come back to life anyway? My wife, I guess. She wanted the bastard that had killed her and me dead. I'm pretty sure you remember Nedry, don't you? The old man? Of course! Who don't know about him? Oh, shit. You're the one that killed him! Simdale personally, and believe me, you're going to be joining him in about maybe 5 minutes. Don't worry about that. But in the end, people with power, especially knowledge of those old ways, you do them right, 9 times out of 10, they'll do you right. Even beyond the grave. But in the end, I'm kind of glad about that. What the hell do you mean by that? You're my last one. After I'm done dealing with you, I can go home. I had the choice all along, but in the end, I wanted to keep doing what I was doing. Take away a few more bad people from this world before I went back to where I belong. What do you mean? How many? Well, I've killed most of the individuals I served with. You see, that's what made me walk away from what I was doing. The way they treated the slaves. I come across a couple of my commanding officers. Saw how one was treating a black man just because of the color of his skin and everything beyond that. I shot him in the throat and watched him bleed out. I freed the fella he had captured. You gotta remember, a lot of slaves were trying to run away, join the Union. Couldn't say I blamed them. Like I said, it didn't really involve me too much. Wasn't really something I was exposed to. But something in me kind of snapped when that happened. As you know, or may or not know, I defected that day. It was easy enough for me to go into hiding. Me and my wife, we settled down. I actually ran a place, not too much unlike what you got here, this little dry goods store. Of course, I did extra by farming. Hell, I even did a couple of jobs logging for a couple of people, cutting down their trees and making sure everything was set up for them. Hell, I even built a cabin for someone. It was easy enough, paid well. Then old man Nedry, he came gunning for me. Of course, you can't blame them. They had a bounty on my head. And then, of course, you already know the rest. I was killed, and I come back as this, whatever this thing I am. And that bastard's dead. There ain't really much else to say about it. How many of those did you kill? I killed Rogers. He was a good guy, but he did too much. And then, of course, killed that infantryman. Can't even remember his name. Dyson, I think. Young buck. Stupid. Most of the others I actually let live for the most part because they were just like me, trying to survive, as well as fight for what they believed in at the time. A couple of them defected like me. A couple others, well, like I said, they just tried to live their lives and they didn't really do nothing wrong. Their souls weren't the ones that were tainted like yours, and maybe even at one time mine was. So that's just how it is. Well, guess what, Sarge? I ain't tainted like that no more. I mean, you can see I opened up this here store. I've helped a lot of people out. You killed your own son. You killed 2 daughters without even a blink because you were afraid they would come after you and kill you. You were right. No sooner had Adam said those words than a massive individual entered the store, a shotgun in his hands. Thomas Madison looked to Carmichael as if he were a cockroach about to be stepped on. I would like you to meet, most likely, your youngest son. I've known him for some time. Then, of course, it's kind of weird how people's paths cross. I didn't think I'd ever meet him again. Not until about 2 or 3 months ago. What are you talking about? You're more than welcome to talk to him if you want, son. Or, I may as well, old man. You know, you're the only one that can get away with calling me that. Yeah, I know, Adam. I know. Thomas said. The young man was no longer a child. He was massive, as I said, a good 6'2", 6'3", which was considered a giant back then. The shotgun was relaxed very casually in his hands. Big, callous, thick-fingered hands. It's funny. My mom never really told me who my true daddy was. She was kind of boneheaded like that. Maybe it was shame for what happened to her. You know, she used to be a whore. I understand that. She married a good man, pastor. I considered him my father. He was my sister's biological father. Ain't much else to say about it. He was a damn fine man. I knew I'd been born of violence, but, well, I didn't know it'd follow me. Because both of them, you know, the man I call my daddy, and my mom was killed just right in front of me and my sister. My animals, just like you. So you know what I'm here to tell you? What's that, boy? He said, refusing to give in to fear. I'm not going to call you father. You'll never get that title. I could say a thing that spawned me, but that's a little melodramatic. So all I'm going to say is this. With this, he shot the man in the stomach. Carmichael howled in agony and pain as he clutched at his guts. Because the exit wound was pretty vicious and very nasty. He coughed up blood, trembling violently, as both men saw Carmichael's soul leave his body, and once more the beings of shadow came from the darkness and grabbed it, yanking it into the void below. There was nothing else to say, as the man's soul was damned. Adam shook his head. You did that a little bit too naturally. You ain't got to worry about that. I don't ever want to do this again. The big man's hands started to tremble. Adam very calmly took away the shotgun and set it on the table. It's all right. You did what you had to do. I understand that, but that don't mean you're never going to be like him. Ever. You don't need to worry about that, son. How's your sister? Well, she's courting a guy right now. Fella named Malcolm. I think they're good for each other, as long as you don't try to hurt her or do anything too far gone. Oh, don't worry. As big as you've gotten, you don't have to rib me about that, old man, and you're the only one that could get away with calling me that. Ain't that right, boy? You're the only one that can get away with calling me boy, you old goat. So what are you going to do now? I'm going home. You was the last of the ones in my unit that I overlooked that had to be dealt with. That was one promise. I didn't make Marion, but I promised myself. I want you to do one thing for me if you can. What was that? Well, there's an unmarked grave near the area I told you about. If you can get me a tombstone, that would be appreciated. Be sure to do that, old man. To embrace firmly. And with this, Adam closed his eyes, those eyeless, socketless eyes, basically those eyeless, void-filled black eyes. And then he opened them. A very pale light began to fill the empty orbs, as he then smiled gently. Finally, I can go home. What do you see? Thomas asked, in awe and wonder. I see his light. Marion, I've missed you. And with this, the small man fell dead, for his body fell dead, right there at Thomas's feet. He ignored the man that had been gut-shot, and very calmly picked up the small man and laid him on the table. And with this, he wept. An old abandoned farmhood property. Hardly anything was left. The cabin had long been since burned to the ground, as well as any part of the farmland. It had all been set on fire. Nothing was pretty much of any value whatsoever. However, that didn't matter to the two individuals who stood over a tombstone. On the tombstone was written, Adam Cervantes, you will never be forgotten. So what do you think? Thomas asked Elizabeth, his kid sister. Of course, by this time, she was well into her late teen years. It's beautiful. Took me every last bit of my money to actually have this thing built and have him buried. It's the least we owed him. Of course, that's not even what I'm trying to tell you. I'm just saying it was a lot of freaking trouble to have this done. But he would have done the same for us and then some, I'm gonna miss him. I've only talked to him a couple of times, but what he did for us, Elizabeth said. I know. I didn't know he was willing to help me a second time, you get what I'm trying to say. When I found out, when I really found out, found my mom's journal, and you know what I'm trying to say. I still don't think you should have read it. Why are you saying that? It's what made you kill him. He had to be killed, Elizabeth. You know that. He would have raped and killed someone else or worse. I'm sorry. I know I should feel bad, but I don't. As long as you don't go around trying to kill nobody else, you'll be fine. I know. And with this, he very calmly pulled out a couple of roses. Of course, they were not in the best condition, but they would have to work. And he set them on the grave. Thanks, old man. You gonna come back here anytime soon? I'm figuring once every few years. Besides, this right here, that ain't where he is. I saw him, What do you mean? I'm gonna heard him. He was talking to his wife. He said he was coming home. I think wherever he is, we're the least of his worries. It's always good to come back to pay respects. Now this, he grabbed his sister's hand. Come on. He wouldn't want us staying here. He would want us living, and that's what I plan on us continuing this to do. And thus ends The Gunman